Sup fams, you are tuned in to the Daylight Channel Eeps. I'm your host, EEPMON, episode 78. And as you can see, I'm changing things up a bit because there's still daylight. Today, I thought I'd talk about my path to become an artist, or sort of like how it came to be. Um, so let's dive back into the past, or go back to the past. And I always enjoyed drawing. Like, since I was a toddler or 2 years old, I remember picking up my first pencil and I would draw, and I just loved to draw and create. I remember drawing sort of landscapes and sceneries. I was always obsessed with traffic lights, and I always felt that traffic lights had like expressions on their faces. I was like, well, the lights had different expressions. If it's a red light, it means it was like very scared and telling you to stop. Yellow light means it was angry and it's telling you better slow down to stop. And green light meant that it was very happy. It was like, yeah, go through, go through. So I created these crazy collages of traffic lights. I should pull some of them up later on. And I was also, my drawings were then, of course, I grew up with Transformers. I grew up with Nintendo. But drawing was a fun thing. But like I think most people anticipate that like doing art or drawing is more considered like a hobby. And as I got older, going to school, elementary school, I was always like the guy who knew how to draw the Nintendo characters. I was the guy who knew how to do, it's like go to Eric, go to they call me the Chan Man because my last name is Chan. Go to Chan Man because he is like an expert at, like, he knows how to draw all these characters, you know. And I genuinely got a lot of joy from that. People came to me because I was like, I guess, considered the best drawer in the class. Heck, maybe even the school. But I just love to draw. And I remember in grade six, one of our school assignments was to create a novel, kind of like a choose your own adventure. And I decided to create my own choose your own adventure inspired by Dragon Quest. If you haven't seen my previous episodes about my fascination of Japan and how I got started with my fascination with Japan, it started with Dragon Quest. So I did a role playing game inspired by that game, and it was incredible. Like, I gotta show that. I gotta bring that out. So I'll do a show and tell about that. It's called the book is called The Forgotten Realm, and it is this thick. This novel I created in grade. Actually, that was in grade 6. That was the grade 3. That was an RPG thing I made in grade 3. Is that crazy? Oh, okay. So I gotta find that. I gotta find that. But yeah, I got an A plus clearly. And I had a friend of mine who was supposed to be my partner, but he did Diddy Squad. I did all the work, but I didn't mind that because I was just so passionate about it. I had a monster page. I had all the monsters have their hit points and magic points and experience and how much gold they would draw. Like, I had it all figured out. And then what else I had? But grade 6 we did our own novel. I remember grade 6 we did a novel, and I did something called The Sound of Darkness. It was this series called The Sound of Darkness. I had my own characters, I would draw them, I would like, color them, and it was like, everyone would want to read my novels. And of course, I got a high marks on that too because it really combined story and drawing and my own characters. But yeah, so but that was fun, right? I was the guy, I was drawing and all that. But then when high school came, well, no, high school came, and I went to Canterbury High School. It's a school for visual arts. So I submitted my portfolio. I remember, to get into school, It's not a private school, but in the visual, it had a specialized arts program. And if you're whether you can go for drama, music, visual arts. So of course I applied for the visual arts program. I got in, submitted my portfolio, and I remember some of the requirements were like you got to do like maybe it's changed since then, but they want to see your life drawing, they want to see your painting, watercolor, other things, other traditional mediums. So now that I think back, I remember I did a couple art classes. I think I went to the Ottawa School of Art and learned how to do some like life drawing and charcoal, coloring and stuff like that. And I remember also I went to uh, yeah, I went to a special art class once a week. Where was that at? I forget. But yeah, I remember I did watercolor, and that was great. And I did a beautiful scenic watercolor piece. I still have it, I think, and I submitted that as portfolio. Anyway, I'm digressing a bit too much. I got in. I got to the art program. It was great, but it was tough. Like I think as soon as I went to high school, Canterbury, to learn about more visual arts, more about getting access to different fields of the in the arts program, uh, like traditional photography, ceramics, um, acrylic painting, like more life drawing, like all that. Like, these traditional mediums were great, but me personally, I started to. It became more of a more of a like like a task. Like of course there are assignments versus me just getting lost in my own world and drawing and having fun and just the freedom to choose and create. And I think at that point, as much as all the signs were pointing that I should continue to become an artist because I'm good at, because that's what I'm good at, it's sort of like that part of that reality hit me like, well, is this what I want to do all my life? Is like to do life drawing and using charcoal and acrylic paints and like I find that more like a chore than actually something that's enjoyable or having fun. However, the photography room did had one Macintosh and it had Photoshop on it. It had Photoshop. And I remember I was so into Photoshop back then. I think it's Photoshop 4 or 3.0. Anyway, I was like so impressed and so fascinated that you can use these digital tools to simulate painting and coloring. And I would again remember back to my elementary school days. I would draw my own characters, and now I could actually scan them, bring them to the computer, and actually color them. So my characters that I would imagine now, I could really fulfill creating full color, very high detail, and then print them onto a nice, well, back in the day, a nice printer, but that mimicked or simulated, of course, what you had colored on the computer. And now to tell you that back then, to have access to that to these tools or these printers was pretty expensive if you were to have it at your own home. But of course, schools had it. I remember where was this? Sir Wilfrid Laurier High School. Yeah, that was in Fallingbrook or area back in the day. Like I didn't go there, but I remember their library was like a full decked out like Macintosh lab, and then it was just crazy like. So anyway, it just goes to show that computers are starting to become more and more abundant in the mainstream, and I was just so fascinated. I was like, well, why am I like doing drawings in traditional mediums when like this new tool is so amazing? And again, it aligns with all my interests with like anything that's pop culture, Nintendo, video games, interactive, and now like these characters that I can create. I can now paint my own pixelated characters or like just like it was the play, man. That was it. That's where I wanted to be. Um, Now, of course, that goes without saying. Like, I'm not saying that these traditional mediums are inferior or anything like that. It just wasn't my medium. It wasn't my thing. That being said, of course, uh, school teaches you the foundations, right? And then, of course, there are assignments, there are chores, there are assignments because that's what they are. You have to practice, you got to learn, you have to train the eye and knowing how to like construction lines and create the figure. That's we we're grateful to actually have life drawing classes like once or twice a week. Okay, grateful that we have the opportunity to actually get access to tools and acrylic paint and have an actual um, studio. I remember it was in the basement in Canterbury. It's a large studio to do your painting. Uh, uh, so it's like it's like back then. Now when I think back then, like now, I was like, I wish I used more of their facilities. But I was a teenager. I was a kid back then. I was more like, oh man, I wish I could be doing more fun things. So it is what it is. That upon graduating, I realized that I was like, what am I going to do in my life? What am I going to do in my life? Like, am I going to continue as a visual artist? Like my grades in school weren't that phenomenal. Weren't that great. Okay, uh, uh, my art was okay. It wasn't like I wasn't a star artist at the time. Clearly, there were a lot more people who were much better at painting landscapes than I was, right? Where people were painting, oils and acrylics, I was painting in Photoshop using like pixel tools. Final project, every student would create a final mural for as their graduation project. My graduation project was like instead of doing murals, it was digital art. I did it in on Photoshop. I did it on the computer. Um, so I felt that I was really the odd one out. I was really the black sheep of the crew. Like I did things differently. But then of course upon graduation again, like what am I gonna do? I got to go to either college or university. Now things are getting serious. Because after college and university, you got to get a job, and then of course in society there's this notion of like, oh, as an artist you can't make money, or you can't have a stable financial living purely from art. There's a stigma with that, right? Let's be true, but let's be honest about that. People think that artists don't make money. That's why there's that saying. There's like starving artist. I know it's kind of funny, but it's not funny because why do we have that? Because we have folks, us creators, we have the hardest gigs in the game. We have the hardest gigs in the game, right? Because we have to convince society that our ideas and our creativity is worth paying attention and worth buying, whether it's an investment or because you have to create work that people would want to buy. Like that's hard because art and creativity in our capitalist society uh, is like whether or not like it's probably like not even in the hierarchy or the priority of people's minds. People will need to pay for things that are like utilities, a car, something that is like a benefit for the individual, other than something that looks aesthetically pleasing and perhaps philosophically in alignment. Most people, majority, would buy something to use, like a cup, like a computer. So art is hard. How do you convince people? Um, so I think, in my hypothesis, is that unless you go the traditional trajectory as an artist, after you graduate from art school or whatever, like, at high school, that's trained in the arts, and then you apply to do a BFA, Bachelor's of Fine Arts, and then later on do a Master's of Fine Arts. See, that trajectory is always arts focused. So in Bachelor's of Fine Arts, you learn more about history, you learn more about honing your craft, more studio time, creating art, and then again, I'm very generalizing, but I assume that it's like after that, you have an final exhibition. The universities perhaps would invite some curators, and that was your, galleries was your opportunity not to show your work, but also an opportunity to network. And then you get into, you get, and if you're, if you're, if there's divine timing and your work is great and you meet the right people, perhaps you would get your solo show at a private gallery, or you might get a patron. So this is sort of that trajectory, right? And you had to go through that route. I didn't go that route. I did not go that route. I took a completely. I'm a black sheep from the get go. Like I did not align with any. Like I did not align with any of the um, conventional notions of becoming an artist. Okay. I mean, I'm a digital artist. Like it's not until recently that now digital is becoming a lot more of an accepted medium of creation. Uh, so what did I do? I mean, traditional galleries didn't want me. Traditional like it's schools, art schools didn't want me. They didn't want at the time. They didn't know what digital was. They didn't think it as much as they didn't value it as much as it being, oh, I want to see your physical paintings. You know, I was always, I guess I was always ahead of the times. So what do I do? What do I do? Um, I took a really long roundabout to become the creator I am today. After high school, I decided to take computer science because actually it was a recommendation of my mom, so I have to thank my mom for that. Because in her mind, it's like, well, computer science, they definitely guarantee a job. There's only those job and security, Uh, so in my mind, I'm like, I mean, I'm a young kid. I didn't want to do my life, and it's like, okay, well, if part of me was like, if I want to do more art in some digital capacity, I don't know what that is. At least at least I'll go to the deep end and take and learn the computer science at Algonquin College to familiarize myself with the computer, because at the time, like, I could use these software tools and all that, but I didn't. I was one of those individuals who are like I'm afraid of the computer blowing up if I do something wrong, if I press the wrong key. I was that type of kid. I was like, if I press like some freaking like command line to delete the entire machine, or I press a button, I'm like, I'm screwed. So I wanted to know more about what the computer was, the inside out, in order for me to really understand and get a foundation and understand the machine. I think that perhaps that would help um, uh, uh, empower whatever I would do in my creative ways. I have no idea, like I said, but that's the trajectory that I went for, and of course, hopes to fulfill a stable job. Um, so I did that. I went to Algonquin College, and again, I'm an Algonquin alumni, and I'm a Carleton University alumni, and my time at Algonquin College in computer science, phenomenal. It was like giving me another chance to really like. I find that also I'm a slow learner. So going back after high school, my marks weren't so great, but then I got a chance to get accepted to the computer science program. I don't know how they got me, how I was accepted, but I got in. But then I'm a very hands-on person, right, guys? I'm a very applied person. So I went there, and Algonquin really. This is not an endorsement of Algonquin, or not. They're not sponsoring or anything, but it really changed my life. It really given me the skills to do what I do today. The world of programming at Algonquin really opened my eyes to what's possible. and I might have talked about this briefly in my previous episode, but there was one, like, programming to me was completely foreign. I had no idea how to program. I had no idea how to code. I didn't even know what a curly brace after an if statement or a while statement or for statement, like for loop statement. I didn't know why these curly braces were there. What's it? What's an int? What's a float? What's a string? I don't know why the hell do we have to declare these variable types? What are they? I was so you gotta imagine people who went to computer science, you know, are more familiar with programming because that's where we're doing computer science. But I came from the world of art, right? I had no clue. I just got in. I just dove like deep dive into programming. Mind you, like I learned a bit of HTML. I learned how to do some HTML out of a notepad .txt, but of course you do .html. But I learned, I got a thick book. I got the thick book of HTML4, and just learned about how to, like, create the HTML structure and all that. And those are fun times. But programming was a totally different beast. Okay, I learned C, C++. Those are, like, I dreaded those because even pointer notations, I'm still confused about, like, memory pointer notations and reference and dereferencing, blah blah blah. But one course that really caught my attention was Java programming, um, because it was such a elegant and clean programming language, an object-oriented programming language. I'm not going to dive deep into what that all means, and for those who are not familiar with that world, like I apologize up front, but I'm gonna might say some semi not so technical terms, but they're like, things that are probably more programmer related concepts and work and notions. But anyway, programming, the word Java, of course, is like really an object oriented programming, OO oriented language. And I remember how we would port Java into the then Eclipse platform, and it was so well. Eclipse was able to generate code stubs. And just like in Word, when you're Microsoft Word, you would do a typo and there's a red underline saying, "Hey, your mistake. This is a wrong word. Here are some suggestions. Do you mean this word or this word?" So similarity in programming Java. Now today, of course, all languages they have this integration, but Java was really early in the ball. It was really early with doing this. Is that you would create these. You would create a class, and it will automatically generate the foundation and the basic template of a class structure. Okay, so the class, it have the formal code stub or the commenting that's required that defines the class. It would generate the constructor. It will generate the code for the constructor, and it would just really organize for you. And it was like rapid prototyping. It's like, all right, bam, 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 bam. It's like, oh wait, you have this function is passing in this parameter in this function call, and yet you're missing it from this other parent class. Like, what's up with that? It'll flag it as an error, or and these sort of things. So it really sped up my understanding of programming. And one course, I'm digressing a lot, but so I'm gonna just get back to why, how it connects with the art world. So one class in Java was creating a calculator, and instead of creating a calculator that's just like command line terminal outputs of just like text, you actually had to use like UI, user interface elements, like actual like buttons, and then all in Java. So you click on it, you click on a button, it would trigger an event, sends it up to the queue, and then you have event listeners, and then when they listen to a button press, it would operate whatever it is. So we did a calculator, and that was amazing because I learned the whole model view controller of OO, and then how a graphical element on the screen can communicate to the program and do a calculation and output a result and output it onto a graphical like UI. Like, so that was, again, the notion of interactivity and video games. When you do something happens. It was happening before my eyes with Java, and I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. Um, and then uh, afterwards, there was during that time when Flash, I don't know if you guys remember Flash, but Flash started to make a big impact. Macromedia Flash was a huge next generation um, web development uh, uh, program where you can actually create these rich, they call them rich internet applications. So, and the programming language is very similar to that of Java. It was ActionScript. I started with ActionScript 2. No, sorry. ActionScript 2, or even ActionScript 1. But ActionScript 2 was when it got more like structure. But then ActionScript 3 was when it really mimicked the OO concept with Java. So I start to create these interactive games and start to work these interactive websites that look so cool that were non-HTML, but it was all done within, of course, the Shockwave plugin. Um, and I remember I got a lot of great projects with doing Flash. Got paid pretty well for that. Actually, it was pretty great. It was so much so that I was able to pay my tuition with doing Flash stuff. uh, but yeah, but then you see, but then so then suddenly like the graphical and arts and design and UI design and programming starting to like come together, and then I would create, I develop my own websites in Flash, um, and I made my EEPMON version like 1, version 2, version 3 websites, and I won awards and I competed. So all these things start to happen. Um, so that feeling, remember that time I was saying earlier, earlier in my episode, like earlier in my conversation, I was feeling like everyone in school came to me because I was like the artist who could draw really great Super Mario and all that. That feeling of that, that I'm repeating myself, but that feeling, I felt the same way when I'm doing my flash work, my programming and art coming UI coming together. I got gigs because they said, "Oh, Eepmon or Air Chan or Eepmon knows how to do these things." So we go to him. So I kind of rolled with it, and I was like, okay, well, it looks like there's something going on with this, with what I'm doing. I think I'm doing something right. But it wasn't. But I was doing like web stuff. I wasn't doing necessarily like art stuff. Uh, but I was doing with programming. But of course, I was using graphical software to do my personal artwork, of course. But then the true generative art plus code really solidified when I attended a conference in Toronto called FITC, and there was like um, one individual or a couple individuals that really inspired me. There was this Japanese uh, artist, like this computer scientist artist, Yugo Nakamura, and he did some incredible flash work. I think he did I remember he did some sort of like the Nokia tree, did something really cool, and it's just the soundscapes and the atmospheric soundscapes with the this tree, this freaking tree branch that had all these different nodes and just different people were just experimenting of different user experience design. Like this guy was the master. I have no idea how he did it in Flash. He must have had some server side stuff going on, but so that blew me away. And then another artist was Joshua Davis, and he was so like his style of doing he was doing Flash and code and art coming together, and I was like, wow, this is before the people coined the term gen art or like new media art. Like these guys were at the forefront, and I was so blown away. I was like, I felt like that was where I got to go. That was the area I had to go. I had knowledge of the program. I had knowledge of art, doing software. I was like, I have all these different pieces. I have all these different pieces. I could think UI, I could think user experience, but now I think this is where I got to go to really manifest it by putting these things together. And I remember him speaking, and he kind of like hinted at how he did it. And me being, familiar with Flash, and I was in Toronto, uh, I was so blown away, and I remember taking the VIA rail back home to Ottawa, and I just whipped up my laptop, and I basically scripted something in action script at the time based on what he said, and I ran my program. I did it within the 4.5 hours train ride back, and I had a working prototype. It was working. It was working. I was like, just like Iron Man, like the first one he's building his Iron Man suit. I was like, I was just coding. I was like figuring it out, and I had it. I was like, oh, that's it. That's how you did it. And since then, I've continued to refine the program. Now I've like able to port that to different applications, and yeah. So and then I've created new art, and I start just this program I created is a tool. It aids me in the creation process of artwork, generative art, and that skill set has benefited me to this day, to this very day. So much so, in my previous episodes, if you check, please like and subscribe. By the way, that you know I'm doing generative art for different clients. I came back from Japan to do do some art related workshops, generative art related workshops, exhibitions, like that. I feel that is my alignment: art and technology, art and code, and it goes a long way. And it's sort of like the opportunities, folks, and the reach that you can have with having these two worlds, the left brain and the right brain, coming together, is very powerful. I think it really, though they're really what seemingly are opposite sides, you could find a fit bridging these two worlds together. Guaranteed, you will find opportunities. It doesn't need to be art and programming. It can be any other field. I don't know, but just for me personally, art and code was it, right? The tools I use, technology, like I didn't care what people told me. I didn't care if they told me, oh yeah, digital art's not a real form of art, like blah blah blah, like technology, it's not great, it's not good, it's bad, it's not it's people's lost touch with their the hands-on thing because using these tools. I don't listen to that crap. They're like a bunch of like morons, really morons. Like, come on, guys, like wake up, 2024, folks. If you haven't done any digital aspects, yeah, at least getting some exposure in that world, I recommend you do. Okay, because progress, the future, opportunities ain't going to be waiting for the laggards. Okay. um I'm just going to keep on going, and I'm going to stop. I'm going to keep on going, right? I've learned that if there's any advice, is I learned not to take people's advice. I learned to take my own advice, right? Everything around you, take it like a grain of salt, but at the end of the day, it is you who have to make the decisions. Have I listened to other people? Oh, you gotta be a painter for the rest of your life, you gotta be this for the rest of, then I would have been just following orders. I would have been just been obedient. But here I am today, a creator, you know, thinking, I think I'm doing okay. Okay, I'm like, it's not like I'm not, I'm not. How do I say? Um, like I'm saying, like as a creative entrepreneur, as a digital artist, I have my high times, I have my low times, I have my slow times, and that's part of the process. But I have absolutely no regrets, and like to think that I've really found my alignment and my passion. So I hope that this story inspires you and you find it useful. Um, for those who have found their passion, good on you, amazing. And for those who are still searching, I recommend you to keep looking, no matter what kind of field you are, you know. But also to close off, I always feel that if you are to do this type of thing, you have to be sure that that you can embrace the uncertainties and the unknowns that will certainly come your way. But what is life without uncertainty and the unknowns, right? That's the exciting part, guys. It's exciting. You know, the fact that we don't know, the fact that we don't need to, that we had there's nothing certain. If we're already in that mindset, you got life made, man. You got life is made, because like, you know, nothing lasts forever, and for people who like stability, um, I think that they are more at risk than we are. That's how I feel. But my life is always volatile, folks. It's a volatile world. So, a volatile man in a volatile world. It's a great fit. Anywho, all right, folks. I think I went really long, 35 minutes. Oh my god, I ranted like crazy. Please like, subscribe. If you like what you said. You know, I should do more daylight channel Eves. It's actually, well, it's 7:30 now. But like, you know, I think I got more energy. I could even talk longer. What do you think? What do you think, Slime? Huh? You agree, Slime? Look at that. Slime's like, yeah, hell yeah. Okay. Anywho, until next time, folks, please like, subscribe. Have a great evening, a great afternoon, and a great morning wherever you are in the world. Episode 78. Signing off. Bye bye.